That part wasn't rehearsed.
Yeah, the dancing was not rehearsed. As Steffi pointed out, the session title is How to Reclaim Humanity from Technology. Let's think about this for a second. How to reclaim humanity from technology. There's a lot of assumptions built into that session title. And whenever it gets brought up, everyone leans in deeply and says, oh, that's so interesting. I've been thinking about this so much. It has lots of hard views. But I wonder if we can actually maybe dive a little bit deeper into what we might mean by that, because we might mean different things. So I'm going to ask the audience the first question. Is the problem technology, or is the problem wider, something in society or the economy? So I want a show of hands. All those who think, yeah, you know what, this has the session has a lot of purchase with me because I think technology has run amok. Raise your hand versus those who think actually it's bigger, it's societal, it's economic, it's something else. So all who want to cast the blame on technology, raise your hand. So that's like 2.6% of you. Okay, all those who say, no, it's in the context that it's in, and the context is screwed up, and that's where we should focus our effort. There, great, okay. So with us today are two prominent philosophers and economists and social thinkers to talk about no. Okay, just the opposite. So we have to talk about actually the bigger theme, not the miniature theme. But first, let me ask, how would you have answered if I were to pose the question to you? Technology or society?
I would say I would pick a third option. I think it's the incentives that drive the technology economy. It's the incentives that build the trillion-dollar companies that create the challenge. It's not the technology in and of itself. So we have what funded the social media revolution, and I was, mea culpa, I was one of the early Facebook people who built the global operations, was creating an ad model that would hoover up all of the intelligence behind all of the information about people, and then somehow come up with a business model that would, make this company successful. And we came up with the surveillance ad model, which now is at the heart of all the challenges that we're facing. And so when I say, the issue here is it's not the tech and it's not society, it's the incentives that drive the technology that we deploy and deliver. And I don't want to steal too much time on that.
No.
There's a lot to discuss there.
It's lovely listening to you. Hello, everyone, by the way. It's lovely to be here. You say context, and I think I'm more famous for calling a spade a spade. What is context? Context is capitalism. So yes, all those people, I don't know if they meant this when they raised their hands for context, but we are living in a system where profit is the most, divine thing, and then, neoliberalism has been unleashed since 1980s. So therefore, yes, this context, as you call it, has been swallowing up not only democracy, but also human morals. That's why we're today feeling like we're losing our humanity. And Jonna puts it as incentives because you're a polite person, whereas I am not that polite. I would call it, this unleashed form of neoliberalism has created Elon Musk's, Trump's, and several others, and those we don't see, and so on. And they are powerful enough today to say what the truth is. And their truth, of course, sounds absolutely outrageous to us, because this truth does not really comply with our basic human morals. So that's why I think there's this sense of losing humanity, and I find it very positive to see that everybody has this sense. This means that many, many people are getting more prepared already to do something about it. But then we have to call it for what it is. It is the system that we created, and we, for such a long time, took it as the natural order of things. It just messed things up, to put it politely.
So about 75 years ago, Eisenhower gave a farewell address and referred to the military-industrial complex And last night, President Biden gave his farewell address and talked about the tech industrial complex, talking about all of society being distorted by tech oligopolists. But if you look at Eisenhower's speech, not much has changed in 75 years. We still have such as it is, a congressional military industrial complex. So why do we think it's going to change with technology? How would it?
What do you mean? I didn't understand the question, to be honest. Sorry, Jonna.
So it's a question born of realism or pessimism, depending on your inclination. That same as it ever was. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. We might get hysterical and I shouldn't say that. That's unfair. We might identify the right problem for the right reasons, but the solution to what that problem is not only unapparent. Most of the solutions that we have in our mental model are ones that are probably unrealistic and not going to be achieved. And we're going to have to learn how to live in a world of more than imperfection, of something lost, something precious lost and debilitated, rather than finding a way to restore it. Now, I'm asking it as a question, not as a statement, because first, there's a benefit in sort of crystallizing the debate in strong terms, maybe to spur action, but also to get people to think, well, what would we do if we were to do something? And that's the question.
Well, I think we're at a critical moment in history. I've been in technology for literally 40 years. I went to Silicon Valley in 1985, so I've seen the waves, and I've never seen as transformative a wave as this one. And when I think about AI and the immense power, this immense potential to be this force for human empowerment and enablement, I want to just make sure that we can reclaim that and make sure that people, benefit fairly from it. So the reason I raise the issue with incentives is that we can't be unaware and sleepwalk into a system where AI is driven by, it becomes an influence engine that is driven by the highest bidder. So instead of using ChatGPT, for instance, and exploring this amazing information ecosystem that lies behind it with your own mind and creativity as a guide, imagine if AI is then suggesting things to you or telling you what to view or think based on the highest bidder. And so what I'm saying now is we as a society have to say speak up and say the surveillance ad model is not what we want in an AI-enabled world. It's too dangerous. They're too much at risk. We now pay $20 a month for ChatGPT. I think it's a bargain. Now, I know that they lose money on that, and that's a big issue. But we have to figure out a way that society can benefit from this without sacrificing the model to where we give in to this and that the AI is telling us what to think, feel, and experience and taking away our free will and human agency, which I feel right now we have a chance to reclaim as part of this AI revolution.
Sometimes I think this AI topic complicates the question. It makes the question blurry. Question being, who owns it?
Yeah.
Referring to the old school terminology, who owns the means of production? And when it comes to AI, it's a little bit blurry. It's as if nobody owns it. It's happening on its own. It's blossoming on its own, and it's going to take over the world, and we cannot do anything about it. But then when you say, we have to do this, we have to say this, where are we going to say it, except for DLD? Yeah. Where are we going to say it? Like, are we going to say it on, let's say, Twitter, X, whatever? Are we going to say it in the parliament? Is there a space for that truth to be told? And by whom and how many people?
It's very complicated to even understand. I think that's why it's so difficult. And I think that's why we as a society are sleepwalking into this. That's the worry. And I think you raise a very good point. I don't know the answer. I mean, I've been on both sides. I was also a government minister and worked in the government, and I'm still a member of the House of Lords. But I feel I don't know where the right answer is because we're not even having those conversations in the halls of Parliament.
A century ago, if we had a member of the House of Lords on a session like this, we would look to you and say, solve the problem for us. You're getting paid, my tax dollars are funding you. Wouldn't have a Southern accent, but you get it. But it's interesting that that government has either become infantilized or enfeebled, and you don't see any leadership. If anything, you just see the opposite, right? And the problem might be too big for government, right? We're not seeing the leadership from the private sector, right?
That's a good point, by the way. You know, one of the things that we were made to believe in the last 5 decades, after 1980s, after Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, this business world, people with money, were giving the comfort zone, this endless, limitless comfort zone of thinking themselves as outside the politics, beyond and above politics. This has nothing to do with politics. And this motto of this has nothing to do with politics, this is all about business, I think this is where, this is the motto or the understanding that led us here on this stage asking the question, are we losing our humanity? Because one, there's nothing outside politics. And second, yes, this is an ideology. To think that this is, this has nothing to do with politics. It's an ideological position, and which means that you are powerful. You're not affected by the public opinion because you're so mighty.
I totally agree with you, but let's all applaud. But if it's an ideology, and I agree with you, it's an ideology. How do you overcome one ideology versus another? That's one question. But let us not forget the setting that we're in. A lot of us here are probably the winners of the system that we're in. We might not perceive it so much, but of course we can look left and right globally and then say, well, yeah, we certainly are. But we're all applauding to the idea that something is broken and wrong. So if you will, the ideology of us, this, I'll call it this mass general will, the Rousseauian general will, is one that is anti-tech oligarch. Yet we feel disempowered and unable to come to a solution about what to do about it. We go on holidays to Andalusia, yet we feel disempowered in the world like serfs on the manor to the barons of data. That's crazy.
And I think the biggest challenge right now is it is so expensive to train and develop large language models. And the power that's required to deliver that is enormous. Compare that to a search query. I think it's on average a factor of 10 at a minimum. And there is only going to be a few players that are able to, invest and do that. And that is why it's absolutely vital for them to retain their dominance in the current internet space, retain their business models, to get the fuel and the energy, they own the factors of production, but they need the money to build out this next phase, which is the most powerful and transformative phase, in society that we've ever experienced, where AI is driving that. So it's really difficult because the incentives are not in humanity's favor.
So we're describing a problem. We need to put emphasis on what we can do about it. Imperfect solutions that might patch a sinking ship, but at least it'll give us a little bit more time before it goes under the water to come up with more, stronger, better solutions. What would be on your top of the list in terms of what the problem is and the core of the problem, and then what the solution might be?
Well, I really believe that the model that we have for AI right now is, the subscription model is working. And my worry is that we're starting to see more and more companies revert to ads as the way of financing the future. And I think that there are certain things that are just too vital to be sacrificed in that way. And access to the world's information ecosystem is one of those things.
Well, okay, I cannot talk about AI, and unfortunately, I can see AI only one of the areas that the problems are occurring, let's say. I cannot take it more seriously, than any other symptom that we are going through. My thinking goes like this. Let me put it clearly so it has a wholeness to it, so it doesn't make sense if I say something at the end of my thinking. Okay, I wrote this book called How to Lose a Country, which became so popular in the world that it was terrifying. Because the book was saying fascism is coming towards you. It's not only those crazy countries, Turkey, Italy, and whatever, India. America will be run by Trump. And I wrote this book, well, it was published in 2019. Nobody believed it then. Because I thought, despite the fact that every country is different from each other, even Germany, is open to this, global phenomenon that we call new fascism. The reason for that is because social justice has been dismissed for such a long time that there is this immense inequality that makes people feel like their dignity is stolen. And of course, there comes to the stage such leaders saying that, oh, your pride is broken and I am the only guy who's going to mend it. Therefore, we have these leaders and therefore there's this immense support. And that brings us to fascism. What is fascism? Fascism is the total and ultimate loss of humanity. And it is also, anyway, let's not get into fascism too much. What connects to our conversation right now is what we lost. And that's why I think there are not enough people or there are not enough spaces to tell the truth, because we lost faith in democracy. Not we necessarily, but many, many people have been through this loss of faith. They do not think that democracy is something to be protected. Therefore, they are going for these leaders that have zero basic morals. The funny part and the dangerous part of the story is that when these people come to power, or when they grasp power in any way, the morality they produce, which is not a nice one, trickles down to society. And then that is when you really feel like you're losing humanity. The problem is, there are enough people to say this. There are enough people to, get behind this idea.
But Ece, why do you think we lost?
Wait, let me tell this last sentence.
Oh, okay.
But the problem is a political decision. And it's a very profound political decision. I just wrote a piece for some big magazine in Germany. It's not published yet, but the question will boil down to this. Is Germany determined enough to protect its democracy from Elon Musk when this guy comes along with millions and billions of dollars? So will we choose profit, capitalism over democracy, or the other way around? Because this will determine who we are, and are we still determined to stay human? Because democracy is not only a political system, but it also is the only system that recognizes human dignity. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. How we lost faith in democracy in our institutions. And I think it's fair to say it didn't happen, overnight.
Yeah.
It's been a process. It's been a process for more than a decade. I feel like we have given it away every click, every share, every time we've absorbed it. I'm losing my mic, sorry.
Yeah, you have to look at the audience, so you've got a disconnection. So.
We've given it away bit by bit and over time. And now we have a system where people are believing what is being pushed to them, which happens to be the most provocative thing about that particular topic that will keep you engaged and, returning to the system so that you stay in the system. And it's resulted, unfortunately, in so much misinformation and disinformation that people have started to actually believe those narratives and distrust the system. I just returned from Abu Dhabi, and I was at an event, and everyone was coming up to me and saying, it's terrible what's happening in Britain. And I said, what are you talking about? I mean, yeah, we have a tough economy, everybody does. And they said, no, these grooming gangs are all over the streets. And you have, people are being murdered with knives everywhere. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But this is what is being pumped out and people believe. And it's disproportionate to, of course there was a scandal in Britain about grooming gangs. Started 15, 20 years ago. It's been resurfaced through social media. There are issues with violence, but it's a very safe country. Oh, sorry. It's a very safe country compared to others, in general, I feel like,
Sebastian's got you.
oh,
Mike.
thank you. You know, I feel very safe. I walk home from Parliament myself, and I don't worry. But there's this information out there that people have lost faith in their institutions to protect them.
Exactly. And they have, they're not completely wrong. Can we say that they are? I mean, like, what is democracy? I'm not talking about the people in this room. I'm talking about the people outside this room. What is democracy for them? Can they change their economic precarity, which is the most ultimate reality of their lives? Can they change their reality through voting? No, they cannot. Can they bring wealth tax, for instance, through voting, through democracy? No, they cannot. Why would they believe in democracy? Because it looks to them like a group of elite people doing some theatrics in some parliament and so on and so forth. They have lost faith for several other reasons as well. Do you remember, I mean, like, you and I, we are close in age, and I don't know how many people would remember. 2003, there was this massive No to War campaign. How many people remember that, by the way? Do you remember it? 2003, oh my God, it's so, like 3 people? Incredible. That was the largest demonstration in human history. It's so interesting that nobody remembers it now, which makes a connection to your point. Millions and millions of people on 15th of February came together, and all around the world, they were on streets to say no to invasion of Iraq by Allied forces. And next day, what they saw was that they didn't matter. What they said did not matter at all. There was a decision in the UN, and then there was the Iraq invasion. And since 2003, to give you an exact time when we started losing faith, there was a gradual down-the-hill journey in terms of loss of faith in democracy, but even worse, loss of faith in politics. That's why we have these leaders who think that they are beyond and above politics. We are not from that swamp and so on, like Trump says.
So,
but then how to get it back might be a more important question. What do you think?
yeah, so it's interesting. Let's take that and go back to the very beginning of our session, in which there was a massive consensus that this was not about technology, but this was about society and the economy. Okay. There's a fundamental truth to that I think we sometimes overlook. And then we could take the session title and change it and say, how do we reclaim technology from humanity? Look, this is the world that we have, right? And
maybe from certain humans would be more.
I don't want to that's another session over drinks at the bar.
Don't you think this? I have to tell you this.
Okay.
I'm a digital refugee at the moment. I'm on Blue Sky social media. You see, I don't even. I lost my home in Turkey in 2016 because of this dictatorship. And now I lost my digital home and I'm a digital refugee. And then I'm thinking, while I'm doing Blue Sky social, I'm thinking, why didn't it occur to people of all those Twitter users to organize and get back Twitter from Elon Musk?
There are some efforts like that. People are...
Yeah, but
ineffective.
No to War, that was the largest. Something like that could have been mobilized and organized on digital sphere.
Definitely.
But that answers to the other question, like, how do we get over this?
Yeah.
We even forgot to imagine that these things are possible if you really have faith in it.
And my focus today is protecting children from online harms. And the situation, I think we have a moral obligation to think about these issues in the context of young people.
Yeah.
The experience that young people are having right now online is not distinguished from adults, because there's no appetite in the world to allow a system for age assurance or age verification to be prevalent, and everyone's worried about privacy preserving and all these issues. And the problem is children are being subjected to things that no child should be subjected to. And I think we have to think about how do we solve this generationally? How do we look at creating a world where kids can learn and experience and create and have a good life? Like, we've all had good lives, And I'm very concerned about AI-enabled harms. In fact, tomorrow I'm previewing a film here on AI-enabled harms in children in the morning, if you have time, in the education area. And I feel like if we could just get it right for the younger generation, let's think about how do we solve. We've got kids walking around, with this thing in their pocket, and they're not even talking to each other.
Let me pick up on that. Final question. Think about it. Final question. Last question. Think about it.
Oh my God.
Wait for it. It's going to the audience first. Mobile phones and kids. Age limitations. Choice 21 or 16. So first, age limitations for mobile phones for kids. Raise your hand in favor or against. All in favor, raise your hand. 101%. People are voting with 2 hands. Okay, who's against it? By the way, just a couple of people. Very good. Strong liberals who say, hey, no, you should have personal agency and do it, all that, and parents should have. Okay, fine. What should the age be? Should it be 16? Should it be younger or older? Those who say if 16 is the cutoff, younger, raise your hand. Not older, raise your hand. Should it be 18, old enough to drink, old enough to go to war, old enough to use a cell phone? I'll let you just think about it. Thank you so much, and join me in thanking the panel.
That was
good. And I didn't even ask you, what should it be?
I don't know how we came from fascism to age limitation, but
we're going to protect kids. We're protecting kids.
I mean, we should protect our kids, from dying, for instance, in several places on Earth.
Just when you think I'm pessimistic, someone's worse. This is Eche's more recent book called Together. It's the antidote to how to lose a country. Everyone should get a copy of both. Thank you so much. Thanks. Let's do it.
Thank you.